All right, sorry, dude.
No worries.
We just recorded and it wasn't recording, so we're starting over. All right, welcome back to the Briones Pickleball Podcast. And in today's episode, we have a really special guest. He's a 9-time national champion, and he played college tennis at Azusa. And he does a lot of things now in the pickleball world, and I've known him a really, really long time, and that is Daniel Moore himself.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Good
this
to
is
be here.
Thank you, Dan. Me and Daniel have known each other a really long time. We just talked about how I started in early 2015. He started in 2014, but we met at nationals back when was in Casa Grande.
Yep.
And it's no longer there, obviously. Yeah, he's been around the game a long time. He's played at the highest level. He's had amazing partners like the likes of Matt Wright, Kyle Yates, and others, and we'll go into that. But Daniel, why don't you tell the viewers and listeners a little bit about what you do now? And you're not on the tour, but you're kind of doing a lot of other things. So
yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I do various pickleball-related businesses now. The primary one is called Pickleball Trips.
Yeah.
And we take people around the world to play pickleball. So we go, North America. We do Asia, which is mostly what I do. We do Europe trips. And we just go around, travel to beautiful destinations and play pickleball there with local players. And we do some clinics and sightseeing. Yeah. So it's a really cool way to see the world, especially if you want to go on vacation, but you can't imagine, going a week without playing pickleball.
Yeah.
Then it's a good way to travel. I do some other things over in Japan where I live too. I started pickleball there actually about 8 or 9 years ago now.
Yeah.
And do a lot of coaching now. I have some Airbnbs, so I have camps at my house, and
living the dream, man.
Yeah, I can't complain. I figured out my hobbies and tried to figure out how I can make a business around those hobbies. So
that's really cool.
And then you mentioned I lived in Kenya too. I actually started pickleball in Kenya as well.
Wow. Okay.
And there's a Nairobi pickleball club now. So we're thinking about putting a safari pickleball trip together where we play pickleball and go on safari in Africa.
That's really awesome, dude. Yeah, I think I've seen some pictures on certain forums of pickleball in Africa, so that's really cool.
Yeah, it's happening. It's becoming truly global, and I think Africa is kind of the last place to get it. But it's in certain countries it's growing for sure.
Yeah, you've been around the game a long time. We met at nationals. We've actually had a few battles on the court. I think you won them all. But we didn't.
You beat me in singles for sure.
Huh?
You got third or fourth one year.
Oh yeah, but I didn't end up playing you.
Oh, we didn't play.
No, we didn't play. Okay. That was probably my best result. But what is you've been at the highest level, and you've played men's open, singles. Like what's like the pinnacle or what's one of your most proudest moments in pickleball? Because I know you had several.
Yeah, the last nationals that I won was in 2017 with Matt Wright.
Okay.
And
with Matt Wright.
With cool. Matt, yeah. So
and who was that against? Who did you beat?
We beat Kyle Yates and Wes Gabrielson.
Okay.
So those were probably the top players at the time. I mean, okay. Marcin and Morgan were kind of around too.
Yeah.
So I think those were the top 3 teams maybe. Ben had just started getting into pickleball too, so I think we actually played Ben and
who did we play with that year?
Joey Farias in the bronze medal match, and then we came back and then had to beat Wes and Kyle twice. So I think that was probably the highest point, I guess, that I've, and that was kind of when I stopped playing as seriously. I got more serious about the stuff that I was doing in Japan.
Got it.
And teaching over there. So, and that's kind of when I realized too, like, okay, I can't just like show up anymore and win medals. The level was already getting quite a bit higher at that time, and that has only exponentially increased. That everybody's playing all the time, so you have to do that to be competitive at at the top level now.
I actually do remember I was there for that match. I don't know if I watched the whole thing. Speaking of like levels, like what do you think, you've been around a little bit longer than me, almost a decade now. What do you think, what are some like top 3 things that you think that has totally changed? And we could talk about not the structure of pickleball, but more like strategy in the game, like game styles. Is there, what are some top 3 ones that you really think that's changed?
I mean, I do think at the higher level, at the pro level, there's a lot more speed now than there was back then.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of lower level players see that and they go, oh, well, I need to use more power too. But at the pro level, they can actually control the speed really well. So they can keep it like within a few inches of the net and get it down to the feet, even while hitting that fast.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing. Like, guys are just so fast and they're speeding up faster. But then the anticipation is so much better too. So, you can't ever expect to win the point off of a speed up or anything like that. Like, it takes several shots. And then I think I do think the level of physical fitness and training has really changed. So guys are doing this all, full time, and they're working out, they're drilling 2-3 hours a day. They're playing every weekend tournaments. Yeah. So what you have to put your body through nowadays is so much different than what it used to be. I mean, you'd have 2 or 3 easy rounds, 7 or 8 years ago at nationals, even at nationals. Yeah. But now, I mean, every match could be 3 sets, and then
the qualifiers are now
qualifiers
really tough, right?
are probably like the semifinals used to be. So I just think overall the level has gotten so much higher, and every shot has to be perfect, and you have to focus for so much longer now because it's just. They're just so good, right?
Yeah. You and me, both as instructors and as students of the game, we've been around a long time. It's actually, I don't know, to me, it's really cool to see the game evolve over the years. And, and even the players, even before us, I'm sure they've really seen it evolve. But, I think in the last 7-8 years, it's really transformed.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue we haven't even seen the full transformation of pickleball yet, because this is kind of what I'm working on too, is getting Asia into the sport. And I mean, I've had the privilege of teaching in probably 10 different Asian countries, and there are some really good players over there, but they don't even have, high level badminton or ping pong or tennis players coming into pickleball yet. So I do think once Asia fully commits to pickleball and trains its best athletes, I think it's going to be a totally different game again. And we just haven't seen that yet.
What do you think are 1 or 2 things that we haven't seen yet? Or where do you see the game going? Let's say 5 to 10 years from now. Okay, that's a long time. So let's say like 5 years from now. So my opinion is dinking will always be there. Super important. But what strategically do you think is going to change, or what do you foresee? Explain it.
That's a tough question. I mean, I also think fundamentally pickleball will be the same. I mean, you always need power and control. It's not enough to have just one or the other.
You're right.
So I do think everyone's going to need both, and everything is going to have to be better, faster, harder, lower on the speed, but also, more controlled, more precise, more accurate on the control as well. So I don't think there's going to be any nobody's going to lob every shot or something, right? Because it's too easy to anticipate. But I just think at every level it's going to be more crisp and more just lower, more concise, longer rallies, faster hands, harder overheads. Everything's just going to kind of level up one step, I would say.
Yeah, dude. It's been, I mean, it was even great to see you back in the day play. I mean, we hopped on the court a couple of days ago, and you still got a really good game. But on that, I do want to ask you an interesting question. if you were to put full training in today, do you think you'd be up there in the ranks, and how would you do?
That's a tough question. I mean, it's tempting, because a lot of guys that I played against and I've probably lost to all of them, but I've also beaten all of them before.
Yeah.
A lot of them are still successful. I mean, especially like Ben, some guys maybe not quite at the top level anymore, but still top 20, top 30.
Yeah.
So, it's tough to say. I mean, I don't want to say that I'd be top 5, but I think I'd be somewhere between 10 and 20.
Okay.
If I played full time.
I think that's fair, man.
I don't know if that's
giving
myself too much credit or not.
No,
but,
I definitely, I wouldn't doubt it, man. Because I've seen you play some high level ball. So, and I know I asked you this other day, you don't follow pickleball like all these like people who probably watch this podcast follows it every single weekend. But who are your male and female? Who are your top players to watch or to look for?
Well, I mean, it's hard on the female side. It's hard not to say Anna Lee.
Okay,
I mean, that's like the standard answer, right? Because she's like 16 or 17, and she has like in pickleball. I mean, she could be at the top for another 20 years, possibly like maybe more than her lifetime. I mean, who knows what'll happen in those 20 years? It'll be totally different. But it's hard not to say that. I mean, unless something drastic happens, like she's going to be competing for medals at every tournament for the next 10 to 15 years at least. On the men's side, I mean, it's so hard. There's so many new guys coming in, and I feel like that's just going to continue because there's so many like former college tennis players or even guys that were kind of semi-pro or even pro that are retired that are coming into the sport. So I actually think on the men's side, there's going to be somebody who comes in. We haven't even seen him yet, who is just going to be like the Djokovic of pickleball that we just haven't seen yet. And I don't think anyone. I mean, Ben of course is at the top of the game right now, but I think maybe there's even a next level beyond that.
Well, there has to be, right? And then even Ben says that. I've heard him in some interviews, but me and you both have played against Ben various times. You know his game, and you've probably seen how he's escalated his game. What do you think, what kind of player do you think it will take to kind of take him down, or like what kind of game style you think it would take? Like a better version of Ben Johns maybe, or like maybe something else?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, not very much, but
it's all right. This is live, man.
It's a good thing to think about though. I mean, how do you and of course people have beaten Ben occasionally, but then he comes back and like reconfigures his game and then comes back and beats them. So I think the thing about playing Ben is that you just constantly feel under pressure and uncomfortable. At least that's how I felt. And you never know when he's going to attack. And it just feels like I can never relax because you never, you just, even if you hit a really aggressive dink, like he could attack, that or at least put pressure on you from that dink. So I think it's just figuring out how do you get him to feel that pressure instead of you. And I don't know if it's a better version of what he does. I mean, that seems to be how people beat him in singles, like JW when he beat him, he just kind of like copied his game, it seems like to me. But how do you put him under pressure? And that's like one of the hardest things to do.
But I was just getting your thoughts, man.
Cool.
One of the things, and I've talked about this on several of my previous podcasts, but as the game has evolved, I've evolved my game. I've learned different things. I've added new shots. I know you're not playing at the in tournaments and stuff like right now, but what changes would you, or what new shots would you have to add?
I'm so bad at earning. Like I never do it. And if you're ever gonna play me, I'm giving away my strategy because I
All right, I'm gonna hit a lot of down the line things.
I mean, I'm not a very like tall player either, so like that, it makes it a little harder to do that. And I'm usually like more the setup guy.
Yeah.
But that's something I really think I need to add to my game to put a little more pressure on my opponents.
Good.
I mean, I love my backhand cross court dink, and I put a lot of pressure on people with that slice, and I try to really keep it low.
Yeah.
But my forehand doesn't really have that same effect. So if I was really going to practice and like engineer my game, I think I would try to be able to pressure people the same way on my forehand dink as I do on my backhand.
Well,
dink.
you hit topspin forehands.
When I'm attacking, yes. When I'm defending, a little more slice, but it's more just get it in.
Yeah.
And on my backhand, even when I'm feeling pressure, I can sort of put pressure back on them. I think that's kind of the difference.
Okay. And then you said, so you played college tennis. Did you?
Yeah.
I always ask this because like I study the game all the time. But did you have a one or two-handed backhand?
Two-hander.
That wouldn't be on the top of your list to start adding
two-handed backhand,
two-handed shots.
I mean, I don't know. I like my one-hander so much that I haven't ever felt the need to.
But for attacking though.
Yeah. You think it would add more power or what?
I think, the way the game is changing. I mean, you have so many shots.
Yeah.
So, but I just think that, I think that you can start to work on that, man.
Possibly. I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe that's why you have a coach. Like a lot of these, pro guys are getting coaches because they can point things out like that out.
Yeah. But that's the one thing that Ben has added in his game.
Yeah.
Over the years as well.
Yeah, I just don't know if I could get more power from a two-hander. It seems like I get more whip from a one-hander, but maybe that's something. Yeah. Maybe it's just like a blind spot that I have on my own game. But
well, maybe we'll have to experiment.
We'll have to work on that. Yeah.
Okay.
You can teach me, Jordan.
I'll try, and then you can teach me your slice.
All right. Yeah.
So you're in Japan now. You do these pickleball trips, and players come to you. They train with you, and you do trips all around the world and stuff, right?
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing that you do currently now? Because I know you do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I do even non-pickleball stuff too. I have like a guiding business in Japan where I take people on outdoor trips, so I get to do a lot of cool stuff. But no, I love the pickleball trips. I mean, it's really good excuse for me to travel too.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. It's all pickleball people that come on these trips. So they're all, they all like the same things. We're just talking about pickleball the whole time. And then
does that get old or something? Or are you
I mean, it can. Like if someone, well, sometimes we have like non-pickleball players join with their husband or wife. And they're like, oh my gosh, guys, let's start talking about, can we talk about something else, please? Because for 9 days straight, we've been talking only pickleball. Yeah. So I think as an outsider, you could get a little intimidated by that. But no, but it's fun. And it's crazy. Like 16 people come on a trip. They don't know each other. But by the end of the trip, they leave as really good friends and like, we want to play in this tournament together. I'm gonna go visit you on the East Coast or whatever it is. So and with local players around the world too. I mean, we meet all these different players. Sometimes we don't even speak the same language, but people just connect through pickleball and they have this common language and common interest, and it's cool to see how it happens.
Let's talk about a little bit about about Japan, because you live there now.
Yeah.
I believe you said you were born here, but you were kind of raised in Japan.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about this, but how's the sport in Japan doing, and what are the things that you're doing there currently, and what are the things are you just seeing in Asia, just in general, that like is growing the sport or maybe hindering it?
So Japan is my primary focus, I would say, because I speak Japanese and I've lived there for 24 years of my life now.
Give the viewers a little something. Give them something.
In Japanese? みんな日本に来て一緒にピックルボールやりましょう.
What he said exactly.
Anytime.
What does that mean?
I said, please come to Japan and play pickleball with us.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so Japan, I brought pickleball over to Japan when I moved back in 2015.
Yeah.
And we started with one gym in Tokyo that was playing like once a week, and we had to pull teeth to get 2 courts together. We were renting a badminton court in a gym, indoor gym, and that's still how most pickleball's played in Japan, is indoors.
So on badminton.
Wooden floor gyms. And that's just because badminton courts are the same size as pickleball courts, and it's easy to convert. They get a lot of rain, so we can guarantee that we can play when we do indoors. So from there it's grown. I mean, it's still only 2,000 or 3,000 players, I would say.
In the whole Japan?
In the whole country.
Wow.
Split between probably 30 something clubs around the country.
And how many people live there?
It's 120 million people in Japan.
Okay, so that's a super
very small percentage of the population that's playing. Yeah. My goal has always been like 1% of the population playing pickleball, because a few years ago, I think the U.S. was about 1%. I think it's over now, over that 1% mark.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 2%, something like that in the U.S. But that's kind of my goal, because then I feel like pickleball is just kind of growing uncontrollably, and it's just going to like naturally progress. Whereas right now we're having to like actually go out and do clinics and like teach new players, and it's kind of a grind to get it going at first. And that's part of the reason it's taken so long, is that everybody's working and nobody can just volunteer all of their time to grow pickleball. It would be nice to be able to do that, and I think it would grow a lot faster, but no one's been able to to do that yet. So
well, when you started it in Japan, though, it was pretty much zero.
It was zero,
right?
Yeah.
So from 0 to 3,000.
0 to 3,000. So it's like a big club in the U.S. Okay. that's kind of how many players we have is one club in the U.S.
Okay.
Yeah. One kind of big club, but still.
Yeah. What do you think it is? Because I'm sure you've heard of the sport padel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, like, people in the U.S., we think of pickleball as a fastest growing sport. It is, but I think worldwide padel is like growing really, really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about, like, why isn't it growing as fast as the U.S.? Is it like space? Is it weather?
There are a few factors. I mean, Japan, most of the tennis courts are actually not hard court tennis courts. They're either clay courts or there's a artificial turf court called Omni that the pickleball doesn't bounce on. So that's a huge problem, because... Does
it bounce on... I mean, even with the indoor balls? I mean, on clay courts, they use different balls. And
yeah, I mean, you can make it work, but it's not ideal. Yeah. Like, if you dink, it really doesn't bounce very much. Okay. On ground strokes, it's okay. Yeah. But on dinking, sometimes the ball will just kind of die, and you have absolutely no chance of actually getting the ball back. So it's not the end of the world, and I'm working with some people to try to design an omnicourt ball.
Oh, are you? That's interesting.
I shouldn't say I am, but I don't know if I should say this even, but there's a paddle company that's actually working on designing a ball for omnicourts.
Just for omni, or maybe for clay as well? Because like for both?
It might work for both. Yeah, I don't know. There's also some carpet courts over there, but anyway, that's one of the main reasons. And then I think Japanese, I mean, there is not as much space, so that's another issue. And then we're mostly playing indoors, so like when you're outdoors in the States, a bunch of people just see you playing and they're like, what's that sport? I want to play too. And it just kind of naturally progresses without you even really doing anything. Whereas indoors, you never see other people playing, because unless you're the next people playing badminton or whatever, you might come across it. But I think that's the reason. And then Japanese people, they like to do what everybody else is doing. So if there were more people playing pickleball in Japan, it would grow a lot faster too. But because it's so small, nobody knows anybody else who's playing. So right now it's only like really adventurous people, or really people who have some kind of connection to the US.
And what's the demographic? Because like, when we first started, and it's still heavily older, like seniors or 50 plus. What's the demographic in Japan playing? Is it the same, or is it younger?
I think because it's so new, it doesn't really have that image of being like a senior sport in Japan.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually a lot more varied than it is in the States.
Oh, that's cool.
So we have, I mean, there's sometimes 3 generations playing together. There's, I'd say more people like 40s, 50s who maybe used to play tennis or badminton and they've converted over. Yeah. But of course you get the senior places too. Different clubs are almost entirely seniors. So it all kind of depends, and each club looks a little bit different, but I wouldn't say it's as I don't know what the word is, age separated as it is in the States.
Yeah. I guess a segue into a different kind of topic, but on this podcast, there's a lot of people that listen to improve their game, and also they're just trying to find more things to learn and things like that. You've been in a game a little bit longer than me. We've been around a long time. Like a total beginner, let's start with like non-racket sports, right? Mm-hmm. They don't really have that, but they're super, they're athletic and they want to get better. What are some tips that you have for them?
I mean, at the very beginning, I would say probably the number one thing is just don't try to do too much. So, meaning, I think a lot of beginners, maybe they come from tennis or other sports and they think, I have to like go out and win the point. I have to make something happen. I have to, overpower my opponents, or, I have to basically do something special to win at pickleball. Okay. And really, I would say it's about just keep the ball in play longer. Yeah. So don't try to do too much, really try to keep everything as simple as you can possibly make it. And
I like that.
As long as you try to keep everything, low, hit softer than you're used to, because you just don't need very much power, just do less of everything and keep the ball in play longer, and you kind of just let your opponents make the mistake. So that's, I think, probably up to about 3-5 level, you can probably win just by, even if you get a lot of balls too high, like at least you're going to get some mistakes from your opponents. So, above that, once you're intermediate, I think.
Yeah. What would you give the next level? So that's like up to 3-5. So for players aspiring to be 4.0 plus, now there's different things to add and things like that. Mm-hmm. What do you think, or what would you, or how do you coach players that are really trying to advance in the higher levels?
Well, 4.0, I think 4.0 to 4.5 is quite different than 5.0 plus too. So, intermediate, let's say 4.0 plus, it would probably be, yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to like distill all of our stuff into one.
No, I know.
One nugget of advice, but
it could be several things maybe that you can take away.
I would say,
ton, right?
Yeah, maybe shot selection if you boil it down. So I think at the intermediate level, a lot of times people just kind of. They just kind of get their serve in play anywhere. Yeah. They just kind of get their return in play anywhere. They just kind of, maybe, they decide right before they're going to hit a drop shot, if they're going to hit a drop shot or a drive.
Yeah.
They're, dinking. It's kind of maybe 2 or 3 balls are at the feet, and then it kind of just slowly goes higher and higher and higher, and then it just kind of, there's no control of the ball, and there's no real intent behind the ball. So, really being clear, what am I trying to do here? Am I the serve? I really want to focus on getting it deep. The return, I really want to focus on getting it deep.
Yeah.
The drop shot, I really want to be clear. Okay, this is when I drop shot. This is when I drive.
Yeah.
Dinking, really try to get it to the feet, right? So not being like halfway between either one. And the problem is at the intermediate level, you get away with that kind of play. So then you either never progress or you just beat people that are at the same level as you, and it feels good. But it's not really developing the habits to get to the next level. So I think you need, just more intent and making sure, like, distinguish what shot should you be hitting most of the time, and try not to let yourself do anything stupid, right?
No, I like that, man.
Yeah.
Intention. That's a good word.
Yeah.
So not maybe, I know that, all high level players, 5-0 plus, that's what separates them. Their intention and their ability to strategize and also like pick shots way before and for on purpose.
Yeah. And then, really not hesitating on that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it might be the wrong choice once in a while, but it's better to just go through with it with the wrong choice.
I tell players that like one of my sayings is like, the worst decision is indecision, right?
Yeah.
So, because like when you halfway, like sometimes like, or for a lob, let's say you want to hit a lob over someone's head, like halfway between a dink and a lob is going to be a smash.
Right. You're in trouble. Yeah.
But if
hesitation kills. That's kind of what we say.
Okay.
And the other thing I say is, you have to know the rules to break the rules. At the intermediate level, try to stick to the rules, I guess, as much as possible. I mean, really make sure, you're getting everything, low, and just kind of, it is still more about waiting for your opponents to make the mistake. So if the ball's high, go for it. If it's low, hit it soft, right? That's kind of like a rule that you probably don't want to break too often at the intermediate level.
Okay.
But at the higher level, the pros break those rules all the time, right? So they're speeding up from the lower level, but it's because they can always go back to the fundamentals that they have developed at the intermediate level. So you kind of have to know those rules and be able to keep those to be able to break the rules and do something different, because at 5-0 and above, you become predictable if you're following the rules all the time.
Yeah.
So that's
good.
That's kind of what I would say about getting above the 5-0 levels. Like now you actually have to make something happen, do something different. But you always need to be able to go back to your controlled soft game.
What do you think, like a part of your game that's made you really successful on the court? Like certain attributes or
I think
thoughts or mentality or whatever.
I mean, it's kind of what I've been saying is, I mean, there are entire games I've gone where I like haven't missed a drop shot, for example, or I mean, on my backhand dink when I was playing, it was probably one of the best, backhands in pickleball, and I could just do that all day. And I'm usually the guy that just kind of sets it up, keeps the ball in play, and waits for my partner to go and make something happen. So I think, I mean, I kind of describe it as like no mistake pickleball. I just at the very basic level try to keep the ball in play longer than my opponents do.
Okay. But
you do
attack a lot, dude. Your forehand is really offensive, though.
Yeah. So I guess
go on YouTube, search Daniel Moore's forehand, and you'll find some winners there.
I guess it's going back to that though. Like when it's risky for me, I try not to attack. When it's a little less risky, then and of course above 5-0, you have to take some risks. So you're going to make some mistakes, but trying to reduce those errors is the number one thing that I think I always tried to do, and keeping track of my own errors too. Like I'm kind of playing a game against myself. Like, I've hit 3 dinks in the net. Like, I cannot hit another dink in the net this game. Because you just have to reduce your unforced errors.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, man. One thing that's really interesting, and we met at Nationals, it probably was 2015, maybe 2016, but just the level, right? I mean, we've talked about how the sport has exploded, but just the level of the industry So, like speaking of like, it's just the funniest thing because I think one of those years is when I first got sponsored by, and it was with Engage Pickleball. But the sponsors back then, were just like free paddles and a few shirts, you know.
Right.
Now it's just, it's at a ridiculous level. Where do you see, or what are your thoughts on that? And then where do you see like kind of the sport? I mean, how high can it go? I mean, it's just funny because back then, I mean, pros were playing for like zero prize money.
Right. Or like $500 or something. $500 if you won. Yeah. It's a different world than it is today. That's for sure. I think it seems though, maybe it's already started to dial back a little bit. I don't know. I mean, it seems like the top few players are getting tons and tons of money.
Yeah.
And then for everybody else, I'm not sure if it's, I mean, there is more guaranteed money. I mean, MLP is paying everybody to, be on the teams, and there's more, guaranteed, appearance fees and things like that. But I don't know. It seems like, I don't know if it'll just keep going crazy or, I mean, of course, it depends on how much pickleball grows in the U.S. I think if I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I think it kind of went crazy, and then maybe it's dialed back a little bit. Is what it seems like to me.
Okay.
Do you think it's just continuing upwards? And
I think it is, but I guess we'll have to see how sponsors and stuff works out and things like that. There's still a ton of money. Millions of dollars being poured
I think some paddle companies have realized that 90% of pickleball players still don't really watch pickleball, they just play. So you can sponsor all the pros you want, but sometimes the market is not actually watching the pros play, so they don't know who these people are. So if that's true, and if pickleball is not as big of a spectator sport as tennis, for example, then maybe they figured out it's not worth sponsoring as many pros, and it's better to just put your money into marketing at Walmart or what. I don't know what the solution is, but I think it's possible that, and I do think, if you're not a player of pickleball's not as interesting of a spectator sport as tennis is.
So I was going to actually ask you about that. What do you think? Do you think pickleball could actually ever be a spectator sport? I mean, just from your point of view, when you watch it right now on TV, is it boring to you, or do you actually find it exciting?
No, I mean, I find it interesting because I know the whole strategy, and I know why they're hitting all these dinks and soft shots, right? I mean, sometimes you might have 10, 20 dinks before anything happens. So I think the problem is non-pickleball players are like, why don't they just hit the ball? And then the other part is they don't really understand the scoring, so they're going, why doesn't the score change faster? So I do think those are some obstacles that pickleball has to overcome.
What are your thoughts on rally scoring?
I think pickleball should go to rally scoring, especially as Asia gets more involved. I mean, badminton used to be the exact same scoring system as pickleball.
Okay. So like each player had a serve, like that.
Except I think you kept going back and forth.
Okay.
Like each team didn't get 2 serves. You would just go 1 serve on their team, 1 serve on your team.
But you only could score on your serve.
But you can only score on your serve. And ping pong used to be the same way. And of course, volleyball used to be the same way. And all those sports are much bigger than pickleball. And they've all gone to rally scoring. And I think a lot of it is the spectator side, because you need to know exactly how long the game is going to take for commercials and things like that. And I think it's also, it makes it easier for spectators because there's a point associated with each shot, right? So I think if you're going to get non-pickleball players to watch more pickleball, it has to go to rally scoring. And I've actually said that for probably 4 or 5 years now.
Oh, okay.
And it's just easier to teach new players too. That's a huge part too. There's so much confusion
it's funny.
about pickleball scoring. Even if people who have played pickleball for years, I mean, how many games do you have an argument about the score and somebody forgets the score, somebody calls it wrong, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying rally scoring would solve all those problems, but I think it would make it easier because you only have 2 numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. There's obviously a lot of people in the sport that has been around a long time, and they want to keep the same things, because of the tradition and things like that. And that's very valid. What are some rule changes, or anything in the game that you think has made a really dramatic difference? And is there anything that you would think about, like, leaning towards changing today besides rally scoring?
Well, I don't think there have been any major changes since I've been in the sport. I mean, the serve change, I think, and the serve continues to change. So I'm not sure what's gonna happen with that.
You weren't playing tournaments during the whole spin manifest, though.
Right. I wasn't. Yeah. So I never had to really face the Zane Navratil serve, but I think it's good that, and they kind of explain the reasons why they went to the non-spin side, and that's because they wanted to keep things equal, and the whole point of the serve, of the other underhand serve, was to make the rallies last longer. And so I kind of understand that and why they did that. Of course, there's the bounce serve now versus the hitting it out of the air, and I don't know if those are really major changes that affect the strategy of pickleball that much, but I do like that. I think they've still kept most of the rule changes focused on the recreational players and not the pro players. Yeah. I think most of the reasoning for any rule change is, okay, this is what pickleball has made this is what why pickleball has been popular up to this point, and how do we continue? How do we keep pickleball fun and engaging and all that, rather than kind of catering to the pros? Because I think if you're focusing on the pros, you would do some different things, like allow the spin serve, or I don't know what else.
So you said the last national championship you won was with Matt Wright in doubles. Did you place in singles that year or no?
I think that might have been the last time that I also placed in singles.
Who won it?
I think I lost to Tyson.
So Tyson won it that year.
And I might have gotten bronze, and then Kyle got second, and then Tyson first, I want to say, but I can't.
Or maybe Marson was in there.
Marson that's true. Marson might have been. It's too far back now.
I thought you were gonna know your.
Can't remember. I can't remember.
It's all right, man. So, Matt Wright, we've seen his game progress, and being the oldest among all the youngsters. What do you think about that, man? I mean, you played with him. I mean, how have you been following his game at all, or do you ever watch him play?
Yeah, I watch, him and Riley play Ben and Collins a couple times. I mean, I don't know how many times they've played, hundreds maybe now, but in the final, hundreds of finals, but yeah, I mean, he's such a high level athlete originally, and he has the height and the hands, and I think some of those things, the age doesn't really matter as much, and I mean that's the nice thing about pickleball, right? Because you don't have to move as much, and he has the fundamentals already there, so he just has to keep those up, I think. But I mean, he's definitely one of the best players in the world, and there's a reason for that. And he's, I would say, some of the best hands, and just he's so mentally tough too. That's tough, a huge part of why he's so so good. That's funny, dude. And he's gets in people's heads sometimes, I think. So.
Do you have any memories from that? Or are you playing with him or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's every point there's the stare down after.
So he did that back then.
Oh yeah, and he says he doesn't, but he definitely does. Or he says it's not to intimidate people.
Really?
Which
I've never heard of that.
Kind of believe maybe, but he says he's just like looking at them to see what their reaction is. Okay. I guess to try to like I don't know, gauge what to do next. But
funny. Okay.
you know, to everybody else, it looks like he's trying to intimidate. I think with the stare down.
Well, one of the things, Daniel, that I can really say is that, you know, being a pro back then, you know, one thing that I really liked about you was, you know, how genuine you were and how nice you were to everyone. So
thanks,
I do want to know that I super appreciate that. Even after, I think it was that I played with Dave Wage, and then I think we played you and Matt Staub, and it was that same nationals, but we went out. I think we saw you guys at Chipotle or something.
Yeah,
then,
that's right. Yeah. Right afterwards.
Yeah, we just ate together, and that's one of the things like I really miss, and I'm sure a lot of the people that has been in this game, you know, 6 years or a little bit longer. You know, everyone was super close. You know, and everyone hung out. Obviously, I get it, right? It's totally different now. It's a career mentality.
Big money involved,
big money,
bigger egos, and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was, you know, I think me along with a lot of others, and a lot of you on this podcast may have only been playing for a few years, so you might not know. But yeah, the pro game was real. I mean, everyone knew everybody, and it was just, I don't know, man. It was just, that's what really made pickleball great for me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think pickleball still has an element of that. I mean, you know, I think the pro level, of course, is a very small segment of the population. So I think in the recreational game, I mean, it's still a very small world. Everybody knows each other. It's really easy to get connected to different people in the pickleball world. So I definitely agree that pickleball should keep that culture and that friendliness and of course, you know, the more people are involved, the more personalities there are too. Yeah. But it would be nice to keep that culture.
Yeah. Well, for the viewers and listeners out there, how can they connect with you and you know, and why don't you let them know like the kind of stuff that you have going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So pickleballtrips.com is our business that we run. That's where we do the trips around the world. If you just look up our website, we have a contact us page. I think that's probably the best way to get in touch with us. And we have all of our trips listed on there as well. So you can check out all the destinations that we're offering. And then a couple of the other things I do. One is the High Performance Pickleball Academy. That's our online course, and we do some camps and stuff. And then we do a lot of camps in Japan. That's just kind of on my own.
Yeah. So people, for Japanese, or you're talking about people fly out?
Well, we've only done Japanese camps so far, but what I'm going to start doing, especially for players in Asia, is, you know, just do like a week-long camp at my Airbnb. We play every morning, do some coaching, and then in the afternoon we do cultural activities. You know, maybe we'll go hiking or... you know,
eat
sake
sushi?
tasting, sushi making, whatever it is. We'll do lots of different cultural activities. So it's kind of like half pickleball camp, half tour. So that's definitely something I'm working on. Cool, I don't really have a website for that yet, but you can email me at pickleballDaniel@gmail.com. So yeah.
Cool, man. Well, Daniel, I do really appreciate it. Yeah, man, we're going to hop on the court, get some hits in.
That's right. We might not be this friendly after this podcast.
We'll see if he comes back for another one. But yeah, it's great to be here in Colorado Springs. This is where, you partly grew up here?
Just for 2 years of high school.
Oh, for 2 years of high school.
Yeah, but my family's here now.
Your family's
my
here
parents
now.
are here, so that's where I always come back to visit.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us in this episode. And Daniel, if you want to close it out in Japanese pod.
今日は参加していただいてありがとうございました。またどこかのピックルボールコートでお待ちしております。よろしくお願いします。
All right, Daniel. Thanks again, man.
Thanks.
And we'll see you in the next episode.